always hear this. This is the main thing that I hear African people say everywhere we go. I don't care where we are. They say, well, what are we going to do? Right? Most people say it, but they don't want to hear it. They don't really want to know exactly what it is that you have to do to solve all of our problems. But I have some solutions. So, listen up. What we must do, obviously, this situation we're in, our situation, must be dealt with. And our enemies are not going to come to the rescue to help us. And if they do, you better be very suspicious of that. Instead, we need to solve all of our problems ourselves. It's our responsibility. I'm not talking about when you get nation building age, it's just your responsibility. I'm talking about until you leave this earth. No, forget that. Because every time I get down on my knees and pray to my Creator, and I appreciate my ancestors, I look at them to help us get through these conditions too. So regardless, when you're brought into this world from the spiritual and you're in the physical, it's all of our problems. We all have to solve it. And we look upon our ancestors to solve those problems as well. So that's the only way that we're going to get anything done, is if we solve our own problems, not to look and rely on our enemies. The negative issues confronting us is a result of them.
That's right.
It didn't just happen by chance. We're not a broken people that were just brought to the earth by the Creator that way. We're not brought here broken. Right. We got broke.
That's right.
All right? And that's on so many levels, economically, physically, emotionally, all of that. We got broke.
Right.
The first thing that we must do is look at the lessons from history. There are so many lessons of history. We can go back to our period on the continent when we were colonized, when our land was raped and continued to be raped, when our people were raped and continued to be raped, when our people were stolen and brought here. We can look at the history of our people who were enslaved here, who toiled this land. And if anybody has any doubt about the work that we put into the land being the way it is, I just want you to open up your books. I want you to go back in history and remember who were the ones who toiled the land here. Who were the ones bringing food to the table? Who were the ones bringing clothes to everybody else's backs? Our people did that.
That's right.
Our people built this country. Here are 3 different things that we have to look at in our history. Where did we come from? Anybody got the answer to that? Where did we come from? You can say it loud and proud, y'all. Where did we come from?
Africa.
Mama Africa. What are we connected to? And what were our many accomplishments? You came from Africa, like you said. We are connected to the nation of Africa. Africa is a nation. And your accomplishments made you great. That's what we came from. That's what made us great. All of our accomplishments. So if we are to be great again, we must get back to what made us great in the first place. That leads us straight to African culture, spirituality, principles, values, all of those things that seem like they're blown up in smoke now. Because what we look at with the conditions of our people currently is like we don't have values and principles. We don't even follow code anymore.
That's right.
It's simple codes that right now are in question. I mean, I really hear men say now, well, why can't we be emotional and this and that and this and that? You know, women can. And then I hear women say, well, why can't we be hard and tough and rough? Men are. It's not about whether or not we can do those things or play those roles when it's necessary. But we all know our roles, and we're not supposed to be standing in anybody else's role. We need to be responsible for our own. That's why rites of passage is so important. It teaches us our roles, who we are, what we should maintain, who we should be. We should never lose sight of that. We should never lose sight of that.
That's right.
It leads us straight back to the culture, like I said, the principles, the values. We got to stop trying to be white folks.
That's right.
Stop marrying them too. We need to be black folks, African folks, and be proud of that. There is nothing wrong with being black. There's nothing wrong with being African. All right. The next thing we must do, when it comes to, we must look at our strengths. And we also need to look at our weaknesses. No doubt our strengths are looking up and out for each other. Looking up to and out for each other. We do that. I don't think it happens enough, but we do it. We look up to our parents. We look up to our elders. We look up to people, freedom fighters. We look up to each other. We look out for each other. And our weaknesses are, we can go on and on for that too. We know what our weaknesses are. We always give all of our culture, our food, our resources away. That's why Africa is the way it is. I'm not saying that it's terrible for us to be a giving people, but we have to see that certain people that come in there with their hand out, they might not have our best interests in mind. And this will repeat itself if we continue to believe that we always have to be giving people. We always have to be sacrificial people. Some things need to be kept sacred. Some things need to be held on to. And we shouldn't be ashamed of that because every other culture has its limits. There's certain things you should not know. I don't know if you all know about Brother Bruce Lee, but his people came down hard on him just for teaching them martial arts. And if we think about it, our people taught the Asians.
That's right.
And they was like, okay, they taught us this, let's keep this to ourselves. So we taught them, and they kept it to themselves. And now we so lost to what we had, we think they originated the martial arts.
Right.
And that's what your enemy will do to you if you continue to give away everything you have. They're going to take it, claim it, and they're not going to let you get any part of it. Clearly our weaknesses have been that we always are willing to share with everyone and everything. We must remember the old proverb that everything that looks good ain't good.
That's right.
Next, we must be clear who has been our friend and who has been our enemy and will continue to be our enemy. We must keep giving. We need to stop giving the benefit of the doubt to those who have never meant us any good. And we must pay attention to the worst of the people who have been our allies and comrades. Who are those people, y'all, right here on this land?
The natives.
The native folks.
The indigenous.
All right? The indigenous folks to this land.
There you go.
They told us about this proverb. Everybody knows what it is. Well, if you want to shout it out, go ahead. What proverb did they give us about the white man?
White man speak with forked tongue.
With forked tongue.
That's right.
They learned the hard way. I challenge you to go out and look for your native indigenous person right now.
I know that's right.
And see how many you come up with.
Amen.
They know. Next, how do we get where you and I need to go? How do we get there? How do we accomplish all of these things? First, we must be clear that this condition of dependence that we have, self-hate, self-pity, it comes off from white supremacy. Because that's white supremacy, it seeks world domination. It's not just here in the United States, it's all over the world. And rendering us, our people nationless, homeless, and without clear identity is a part of that plan. And when we go to get back to a condition of having unity among our people and control of the African homeland as a base of support, even if we choose not to live there, just supporting our people and establishing a government dedicated to making sure that no one gets a piece of the African pie until all Africans have a piece of the pie. Then we will begin solving our conditions. Our best option for getting there is to organize.
That's right.
That's our only choice. We must organize the young, the old, the rich, the poor, the smart, the dumb, the skilled, the unskilled, and everything else in our community. We must work to make sure that African people all over the world understand that we are one people, and our collective destiny is the same. We must fight tooth and nail to ensure that Africa belongs to the Africans. Those at home and abroad. We must have Pan-Africanism. Here are some organizations right here that you can be a part of. One of them is not on there, but the Conscious Mind Study Group is another one that should be on there. We gotta get our mind right too, folks. Before we just go out there misinforming our people, we gotta get our mind right. And when we start to organize, we can't just come off of emotion. We have to prove this stuff to our people. They're not just going to take our word for it. They go to school every day and they're taught to hate themselves. So we need to unteach them that hate. The Cincinnati Pan-African Coalition, Ghana RBG, the East African RBG, and the New African Connections. These are Pan-African based organizations. So if you feel like you can't do this alone, join us. Thank you.